So my name is Lily, and I'm taking an adolescent psychology class at Western Kentucky University. I'm holding a debate for my final. The topic of the debate is social media more harmful or beneficial for adolescents? These are the people participating in the debate. My name is Lily.
My name is Vernon.
I'm Chuck.
Sheila.
Tana.
Hannah.
I'm going to start by introducing the topic of social media. Social media is the interactions among people in which they create, share, or exchange information and ideas in virtual communities or networks. Examples of social media are Facebook, Instagram, or Snapchat. Today we will be balancing the benefits and harms of social media. So I'm on the side that social media is harmful. Raise your hand if you're on my side. Okay, now raise your hand if you are on the side that says it's harmful, or it's beneficial for adolescents. Okay. So I'm going to start, we're going to go around the room and talk about why we think that it is harmful. So I'll start and then you'll say yours and then so on. So I think that social media is harmful because it can cause a decrease in self-esteem among adolescents. Nearly half of U.S. teens have been bullied or harassed. I think that self-esteem can be decreased, but also cyberbullying, and that can cause a decrease in mental health among adolescents as well. A statistic that I found says nearly half of U.S. teens have been bullied or harassed online, with physical appearance being seen as relatively common reasons why. So I think that this could cause mental issues between adolescents, causing anxiety, eating disorders, and depression.
Alrighty. I think it's harmful too, just because of the bullying aspect of it. That's all I got.
I think it's harmful because, number one, health, people's eyes. You're constantly looking at the screen all the time. I think it's bad on your eyes. I think it's also bad because there is so much, when you get on social media, there's so many things that you can get into that people may not need to be getting into. There's a lot of bad things you can see on social media. As far as with me being a pastor, I can see young adults getting on social media, and they could actually do the bullying themselves. Not only that, but they could dig into things that they don't need to be digging into. With them doing that, then it changes their lifestyle to something that their lifestyle shouldn't be, and that's pretty much my take on
it. Sheila.
I think it could be beneficial for kids that feel the need to fit in or socialize with their friends, especially for a kid that may feel left out a lot or not involved in things a lot. If they get to socialize, I think it can help build esteem. And I guess it helps to build friendships and relationships with teens. And I saw that Instagram actually opened up a adolescent Instagram recently, and I think that that's a good thing because it should be all adolescents, which would be better than having a mixed population of social media like adults with adolescents.
Okay. I think it could be beneficial because when I was younger, we had pen pals, and so you have a lot more options of friends. You can have friends all over the world using social media, so you're not just restricted to your location. You also can learn a lot of stuff from social media. Some of it is bad, but there are good things that you learn from social media as well.
I think it's beneficial because I think it's a good way for adolescents and teens to express themselves in ways that they might not be able to face to face. And I also think that it's beneficial for them to just relax and yeah.
Okay. So one thing that I wanted to add to mine is that I did find another statistic on why social media can be harmful to adolescents, and it was almost 25% of adolescents believe that social media has mostly negatively affected them, with 13% of 12 to 17-year-olds reporting depression and 32% reporting anxiety. So to me, that just proved that it does cause mental health issues that can be life-threatening, because those can lead to suicidal ideation, which can be very serious among adolescents or anybody in general. But since we're speaking about adolescents, it's something important to bring up. But now I'm just going to go over some of the counterfeit parts of it. So for my side, although they did say that there were things that were beneficial to adolescents, like, educational content or just educational purpose videos or stuff like that, they can also be a distraction to adolescents. And, there's no telling what can pop up on news feeds or even YouTube, stuff like that. So that's important to look at too. And then I know that someone said that communication with friends was important for adolescents, and it is important for adolescents to communicate with friends and peers, but they aren't building a face-to-face relationship with their peers sometimes by doing that, and it can also cause isolation among adolescents as well. So another statistic that I found was that today's children and teens spend time connecting with friends and family in person compared to with past generations. Instead, many use social media to connect, which can leave them feeling isolated. So does anybody want to make a comment on that?
Yeah. I disagree with you saying that the educational videos, there's a lot of websites and things like that can be only for kids, that won't have like ads popping up. Like for instance, like as whenever we was growing up, there was something called Jumpstart, and it was a CD that you put into your computer and it would pull the game up, but there wasn't anything else that popped up with it. So I mean, some stuff like that, like websites, well, I guess this is for social media, but there is social media for kids also, and just strictly for kids that would prohibit, like kids YouTube and stuff like that.
Right, but I know that like with some adolescent games or videos, or games in general that can be on social media, there could be older people. Like I know that some kids play Roblox, and there was something going around that there could be, older people trying to talk to kids on there, and that's scary for children or adolescents in general, because you just never know who's behind the screen.
Also, like on even that YouTube Kids, one time there was somebody putting vulgar stuff in kids' videos, like in the middle of it, so that the parents really didn't see it. Like they let their kid get to watching the video, and then it would turn into something vulgar.
Yeah, like Momo. That I remember when that
was going around. And another thing, that is potentially bad about social media would be, I would worry about sex trafficking, because it's so it's so prevalent right now and nowadays that you really have to guard your kids, and that is something that would be a concern for me, because people target younger children, and it's scary.
Is anyone else?
I also think, though, if the parents do their job in monitoring what their kids are looking at, then there can be beneficial things. But the parents have to do their job as parents to monitor them.
And a lot of phones have the restricted, like where the adult has to grant access to certain things.
Okay.
It's just like our grandson, and I know from past history too, kids can get on social media, and before you know it, you've got a big bill that's run up where the kids has got on there and clicked on something and bought stuff without the parents knowing it. So that's another thing that would be bad. My thoughts.
Okay. So what is something that you guys found interesting about the debate? Does anybody want to?
I found it interesting, like how people can be for one thing but still be against it in a sense. You know, you have everything really honestly has pros and cons, and you can't, I mean, I feel like to draw a line of whether you're absolutely against it or absolutely for it is almost impossible sometimes, because you know that everything does have pros and cons.
Yeah, it's not black and white. There's a gray area in everything.
Yeah.
And I found it interesting about the mental state of it.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that high.
Mhm.
I know, and there's pros and cons to it, but there are good things and there's bad things. I know there's things that when I was growing up, for me it was better to read it in a book and be taught it by a teacher rather than maybe teachers turning their kids loose on social media and letting social media teach them instead of the teachers teaching them. And I know that's going on today too. You can take for instance, kids reading a clock, hands on a clock. I've seen, you know, back in our days, that was one of the big things that they taught you in school. But now they do it on the computer, and if it's not digital, a lot of times the kids are not. They don't know how to read it.
Yeah.
So that's just an example. So.
Yeah. Also with the calculator, I know, like, I'm a substitute teacher, and I know sometimes we'll be working on a math worksheet or something, and the kids on their Chromebooks have a little tab at the bottom with the calculator, and they'll get on there and do it, and then I'll hear them talking about it, and that's something else that could affect them learning. Social media can affect learning in many ways, but I think that the arguments from both sides were able to inform us on how to better practice social media in general, things to look out for, you know, things that we might consider our future children or our children today to get on social media, or just to keep an eye out for stuff. But to end the debate, I did want to read this other statistic that I found, and it says 32% of teens say social media made a positive effect on them personally. So that basically explains to me that the negative kind of outweighs the positive in a way, which I know that was kind of argued, but that's just something else that I wanted to throw in. I know that, like they said, there's a gray area, but for the most part, social media does affect adolescents negatively.
I have one more thing that I thought of. Recently, like in the past several years, a positive to social media, and it goes for families, it involves families, but when the churches were all shut down for COVID, like a lot of people attended church service on Facebook. And I feel like if a lot of families hadn't have had that, a lot of homes would have been, torn apart, honestly, because they wouldn't have been still attending church or anything. And it was really hard time for a lot of people. And that kept everybody still, involved in church somewhat. And it was a really hard time for a lot of people, and that helped kids as well. But they were doing it with family, like in a family setting. But I think that was something positive.
And then I have something to add too. I know you read that statistic about the 32% saying that it was positive, but how many of those adolescents are actually negatively affected by it, but they just think that it's positive?
Yeah.
Like, do they really know?
Yeah. Okay, so is there anything else that you guys want to discuss? Any comments about the statistics brought up, or anything interesting that you learned from the debate?
Well, I know one thing too, that would be a disadvantage. You can't really always believe everything you see on social media. There's a lot of things that people put out there that is not accurate. So they could be misinformed wrongly. And I've seen it happen many times, because somebody will get on there and punch something in, and just because they see it on Facebook or something like that, that doesn't mean it's accurate. So I think that's another disadvantage of when people get on social media. They could be deceived by false information.
I think it could deceive the mind of adolescent kids. I know when I was in school, we did a mock election every year, and it was just basically most of the kids voted the way that their parents did. Honestly. And so I could see social media, swaying the mind of kids in a way to think that one person or another shouldn't be a president, honestly. More than, it might even change their mind up versus what a parent would think. You know what I mean? Like, it might play more, be more mind changing to a kid than even a parent's thoughts. And so I think that would be a fine line to draw, because, as parents, I definitely always want to instill into my kids what I believe. And social media can cause a swaying of the mind, in other words, and even just different beliefs and things. It can cause kids to see all this different stuff taking place, and it might actually be something different than what's taught in the home. Not even really about an election, but it could be anything really that you don't believe in that they see.
It could affect their actions in the future.
Yes.
Even like with social media, there comes like video games and stuff that you can play sometimes on there. Like, if it shows aggression, that can affect them in a negative way, or
it could cause violence.
Yeah, violence. That's the word I was looking for.
I really do feel like a lot of those games play a part in some of these school shootings and stuff. I feel like if kids didn't have access to that mess, there might not be as many school shootings.
And with that being said too, not only that, if you take an adolescent, a young person that's constantly scrolling through their social media all the time, they see a lot of things on there, and I've read somewhere too that it could cause sleep deprivation, to where a child's not getting the adequate amount of sleep at night because they're so used to scrolling on their phone and looking at, or even on a laptop, looking at social media.
Yeah, that's good. Does anybody else have anything?
Even notifications, like if they have certain notifications on, that could, like if they keep having a ping every time somebody comments on something on Facebook or something, then that's going to keep them up, definitely. So
that, and they got to, if they're doing something important, let me stop. I got to look at my social media and see what my notifications are. I've seen people do that before.
Yeah.
And it's just, to me, social media is taking the place of family time, and if you go in a restaurant and you look at the table beside of you when you get at a restaurant, if there's 5 people sitting at the table, I guarantee you 4 of them's going to be looking at their phone rather than communicating with one another. It's
Yeah.
just, it's taking the place of a lot of things.
And that adds on to the statistic that I had said earlier, where it said today's children and teens spend time connecting with friends and family in person compared with past generations. Instead, many use social media to connect, which can leave them feeling isolated. So
Yeah.
when isolation comes into play, that could cause depression.
But
They're sleeping more, stuff like that.
I will say too, I've seen this happen too. You can take 2 people at a table, and rather than them communicate, they get so used to social media, they start texting each other and they're sitting beside each other. I've seen it happen before, and it's because they've got used to the social media. So,
But I think too that it can help with families. Like you said that they might like become isolated. But what if their families have moved away? What if their friends have moved away? Like social media can keep them connected with other people across the world, even if they're on vacation or moved to a different state. So sometimes it can be a good thing for those reasons.
It also gives them opportunities to express their creativity, like you said earlier, Hannah, and engage with multiple people in different parts of the world.
Does
I
anybody-
think there's good things and bad things, but
You just kind of have to weigh it.
Mhm.
Like what outweighs the other.
of course, me personally, I don't like social media. But on the flip note, I have at times been on a business trip or something. Rather than picking the phone up and calling my wife, I can get on social media, FaceTime her, and I can see her, and it's better than just hearing her. That I can see her too. So there's pros and cons. So.
Alrighty. Does anybody have anything else? I think that was a pretty good discussion about, the balances between benefits and harms of social media. And yeah, that's the end of the debate. Thank you.